more insight, more understanding. This is Fox 23 News In Depth with Rick Marino.
Tonight here on In Depth, we're having a very serious, unedited conversation. It impacts your kids, the lunch they eat, and the school districts we all pay for with our tax dollars. Earlier this month, State Superintendent Ryan Walters announced a big plan to offer school lunches for free, but how to pay for it was the controversial part. And now we also know he doesn't fully have the authority to implement this on his own. Joining me tonight is the chairman of the Oklahoma House Education Appropriations Committee, State Representative Dick Lowe. We invited him on to talk about the school lunch plan because, like the superintendent, he is a teacher himself and a conservative Republican. The chairman also has his own concerns. He is also one of those who has a big hand at the Capitol in determining just how much money districts get and how much they spend. Here is the chairman, unedited. Representative, thank you for joining me today. I was wondering if I could get your initial thoughts before we dive too deep into it on the superintendent's lunch proposal. I thought this was a legislative thing, not a superintendent thing.
Well, I think you probably understand a little better than the superintendent does then, maybe because this is a legislative activity. You know, yes, they can do emergency rules, but they would have to be passed by the State Board of Education, have to be and accepted by the governor, and then those rules would again come to us during session, and we would look over those rules. But anytime we're going to do a mandate like that, especially of this nature, of this amount of money that be involved in there, you know, we definitely want that to be follow the law. Follow the way we do things in Oklahoma, follow the legislation, and go through the legislature, both House and Senate, into the governor, and then we can pass that. You know, it's kind of amazing. This bill actually, or this idea of paying for meals, is not a new thought been out there. We actually passed that through the House in 2023. Representative from Tulsa ran that bill, and it passed 91-7 in the House. Didn't get a hearing in the Senate, but it did go through the House. So we have been talking about this for years. You know, the big thing I look at, if this is such an important issue, which I think it is, but if this is such an important issue, why weren't we talking about this when we were in session and let us run a bill and try to help on that? But to just go in there and start mandating and talking about where the money can come from, that's a whole different game.
Do school districts have anything to fear going into the fall if they don't comply with this order? Is there any kind of reprimand, or is it all just empty threats?
Well, you know, number one, you have to look at it. As I said, would have to come through as a emergency rule. That means it has to be on the agenda for the state school board, and they have to pass that. The next meeting is July 24th. I haven't seen it on the. They usually don't get the agenda out almost the day of, or day before. So it's it's the last minute. I've actually had at least one state school board member call my office yesterday and ask and say, "Hey, thank you for stepping up and telling us about it, because we didn't understand, and we kind of have a lot of concerns about this." And so, you know, I really have my doubts that it would pass the State Board of Education. And if it doesn't, if there's not an emergency rule that the governor signs. No, just because they put a rule out, the governor may choose not to sign it. If he does not sign it, then it does not become a rule. I don't know how there could be retaliation against our districts when it's just somebody saying something that is not a rule that's part of law.
Are school districts sitting on stacks of cash that could easily pay for free lunch?
Well, let's if when you get into it, and I'm an old school guy. Both my parents were teachers. I was a teacher, was involved in schools for years. You realize when you start talking about carryover, there's a lot of different things, a lot of different aspects. What would be paid for out of this would now be general fund carryover. No, there is not schools sitting on just piles of money that's been thrown out there. Now we have bond money this voted by the patrons of the school district. There is also building repair money in there. There is so there's about 3 or 4 pots that have to be spent exactly for what that money's for. They just can't be moved back over to general revenue. Now, the notion I've been getting been hearing is, oh, we can just take money out of administration. Well, that does come through general funds. I agree with that, but you just can't pull money out of an area. One thing about it, I don't know anybody out there who wants to say, okay, let's just cut salaries. Well, Oklahoma doesn't quite work that way. We have a salary schedule. Of course, now administration, a lot of that is up to the local districts. We try to stay local control. Oklahoma is a local control state. We want you. We don't want to have a state-run school. Now, there's some things that we do have to put out there, and it's statewide. But for the most part, we try to keep it local control. This takes all the local control out and puts it in maybe one group's hands or one person's hands. And that's not the way we do it. I'm proud to be an Okie. We do things right here. We care about each other. We run through a democratic system, not an authoritative system.
Let me just ask, because you are a teacher, you are a conservative Republican, a similar trajectory to the superintendent. Did this shock you, this proposal just being thrown out there like this?
This may sound harsh, but after the last 3 years, not a whole lot does shock me that comes out. I just want things to be according to law, according to statute. That's the way we run. And, to put this out there this late, when we're out of session, I just don't see there's a lot of benefit. It scares our teachers, it scares our administrators, it even scares our students. They don't know what's going on, what's going to get cut. If this would have to go in, what would have to be cut out of these schools that is beneficial to our students? I was, before this interview, I was talking to one of my superintendents in my district, and they said, it's got our people all upset. And I'm answering questions. He says, thank goodness you're standing up and telling me what's out there and what the truth is. And I said, well, we're always going to do that. We're going to deal in facts. We're going to deal in facts, not in wishes. And then we've come up with a couple of more in the statements have come out in the last week or so. We're going to do this or that. Statute does not allow for it. Personally, I guess it can say anything they want to, but we are going to follow the law in Oklahoma. And our office has made contact with AG, make sure that we do follow the law. And so we're trying to make sure that we know what the law does say, and that it will be followed in the right way. And what is on the books is what we'll do. If the people of Oklahoma want something different, great, we'll bring it to the legislature and we'll vote on it, we'll work through it, and we'll develop something different. But we're not going to just make a change up because one person decides that's what the change they want. And, I'll be honest, I've had a pretty good relationship with the state superintendent. I don't always agree with him, but I always had a good relationship. I haven't visited with him lately since this has come out. I plan to. I plan to try to get a meeting together with him and explain to him my point on this, and which my point is we follow the law. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. Continue to work through it, make sure our members, I serve as chair of education, so I'm trying to make sure our members understand what the statutes say, so when they get questions, they've got good, correct answers.
So if the superintendent is serious about this proposal, he'll bring it to you in December again when you all are actually writing bills. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, we would start writing. We're starting to look at bills now of ideas and so on. We're doing interim study. There's a couple of interim studies. I know the dealing with some of this. One of them is dealing with child nutrition, and that's great. That's the way you go about it. You look at all the facts, try to get all the information you can, come up with a good piece of legislation, and then we can run that thing come February. Just to throw it out there in June or July is not a good way to try to do this.
So long story short, as everybody gets ready for school, nothing's changed. This is a lot of talk. Is that pretty much what we need to take home? Just go about your business as you were in May. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it may be the best way to take it in. Now we'll see what happens July 24th. If I will see if it comes up in the board meeting, if it's a part of the agenda. If it does, then there could be There could be steps in there. It would be short-lived, I think, because if that came to us in February, as rules, we will not approve that rule. I'm sure that that's not the way we're going to do business is that way. So I really think, if my word is to the public and to our schools, just keep doing what you're doing and as educators, kids. Let's not worry about everything out there. Our focus has been improving kids' outcome and retaining teachers and recruiting teachers. We all know the best thing our kids need is a good teacher in front of them. And if we get sidetracked on things like this, it does not help us on that. And so I really want our people to understand, hey, you've got people up here caring, that they're not going to just sit back and say, well, whatever they want to do. No, we're going to follow the law. The law has been in place. We're going to continue that. We have free and reduced lunches. That we get federal money for free and reduced lunches. And those that can't afford lunches, that's what that's for. And so it's not saying, well, all the kids are going starving up there this way. No, that's not the way it is. But this would just make it easier for a lot of people. But we do have that in place already. So, I think there's just been a lot of things taken out of context, the way it could be, the way it works. And if you're not like me, has been around school a long time, you don't understand that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not, there's a lot of fields I don't understand that people work in every day. But let us do our job. Let us realize that we're out there fighting for you, and we're fighting for our kids. And anybody knows me, there's one thing I will tell you: the minute I quit caring about kids, I won't be sitting in this seat anymore. I'll be out of here, because I love kids and I care about them moving forward to being our next generation.
Representative, I'm out of time. Anything else you'd like to mention before we go?
Thank you for the time today. I hope that people understand that, hey, it's not just one person running this whole game up here. We're all working together to move our kids forward. House has looked at several of these areas. Sometimes you only see the headlines, but realize we're diving deep into these and trying to make it the best for Oklahoma kids.